Kirara was quite recently free from the 4.8 summertime event, and she got quite the awesome skin to boot. I've heard some talk about her being passed around down below in my comments, so today I thought it'd be fun to evaluate this character's current meta position, since most people will now have access to her. Plus, she's been seeing some spotlight recently with Mualani. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. I want to start off by evaluating the feel of her kit. It kind of depends on how you're playing her though. I'll evaluate her performance in the three following teams. Traditionally, as a 4-piece Instructors holder in a Kaching Aggravate team, freshly as a Burn Vape Mualani slot in, and unconventionally in Hyperbox. Okay, so starting with Kaching. I'd say that the main important thing that a defensive option should be able to do in Aggravate teams is still manage to provide enough Dendro application on top of their sustainability in order to keep the team functioning harmonically. Plus, since they're the fill-in for Nahida, it's always nice if they have some buffing on top to compensate for the loss of Nahida's EM buffing A1. Kirara can comfortably hold 4-piece Instructors in this team, so she offers them buffing along with her shielding. Her Dendro app isn't anything crazy pre-C4, but once you get her C4, Kirara feels pretty good in Aggravate. She's a great cheap substitute option here, and this is one of the teams where the cat feels best in my opinion. She's interesting in Mualani teams, as while she does help keep up burning while also being a shielder, Toma generally replaces her as a shielder in these comps. He consolidates more roles as he provides shielding, pyro application, decent burgeon damage, and NA% buffing with his C6. Kirara is more than serviceable with Mualani, but she's pretty much a Zhongli replacement here. Though, Kirara can also use Instructors in this team, and Mualani adores EM thanks to primarily dealing vape DPS. Good stuff. Then for the legendary Hyperbox. This meme team of dreams exists for one simple reason. Kirara's burst scaling is on par with a freaking crowned Raiden Shogun burst. That's insane. So this team DPSs Kirara by weaponizing her burst, while also running around in box form to apply more Dendro. The team is obviously a joke, but you'd be surprised at how well it works. It's funny, silly, perhaps even a little whimsical. It takes advantage of Kirara's specific abilities, and really makes this Amazon Prime delivery creature feel like a true box, with a nuke in it. She feels pretty good to play. The character definitely feels serviceable and fun to use. My personal preference of her is Kaching Aggravate, as she feels super comfy here, but certainly don't sleep on giving Hyperbox a try, it's good fun as well. With that being said, does Kirara need her Constellations in order to function? After all, we were all given one copy in 4.8, and many of us are only gonna have C0. Well, why don't we take a look and review? Her C1 increases her Dendro application, which is definitely something she wants to Aggravate. Pretty good for the almighty Hyperbox as well, but it's not needed much for Mualani teams where Nahida is also helping out Dendro-wise. I will add that the burst bombs are also pretty unreliable, so this C1 might not increase her Dendro application as much as you may think it would. Kirara's C2 provides more protectiveness. At base C0, her shield is still fine and serviceable if knockback is your issue. Definitely by no means a necessity. This C3 was sponsored by the Council of Hyperbox, otherwise you don't need it. Extra shielding power is always cool though. C4 massively ups her Dendro application, which is what makes her feel so comfortable to play with an Aggravate teams in my opinion. I think that Kirara gets a significant boost from this C4, and it is definitely her most significant con. If you want your destructive cardboard to truly strike fear into all those who are allergic to cats, then this C4 is worthwhile. C5 makes her nutty burst scalings even more crazy. Truly a Hyperbox moment. C6 is a really solid buffing con, especially when paired with Instructors. This is especially nice for her teams where she supports a DPS, such as Kaching and Mualani teams. You can still cook in Hyperbox without this though. 4-star Constellations are a menace to get, and you should never go out of your way for them deliberately unless you're mentally prepared to get multiple copies of a banner 5-star that you may not want. Yes, Kirara's Constellation lineup does improve her, but what I wanted to see is whether she requires the C6 or not. For Aggravate, you do want the C4 quite frankly, but you can still play and enjoy Kirara at C0. Hyperbox is also accessible at all investment levels, and Mualani isn't really strapped for Dendro application with Nahida or Emily around, so C0 is fine. In terms of Kirara's meta history, she's always been a bit of an undercat. Funny to play perhaps, but never a necessity. She's pretty much always been replaceable with other 5-star Dendro units, such as Nahida and Baiju, while other 4-star Dendro units had better Dendro application right out of the box at C0. For example, DMC. I've always considered Kirara to be a good budget comfort option in Aggravate. What that means is that while she may not be the absolute best in slot with her role, she will still help you get the job done with ease. Before Chlorant came out, who self-heals, Aggravate teams had a problem with sustainability. Using Nihida on Prototype Amber was pretty much a must for survivability, otherwise you had to use Baiju, whose Dendro application isn't all that great in AoE. If you didn't have, or simply didn't want Nihida, then Kirara was a great substitute that helped the team clear comfortably and in time. Otherwise, she was essentially always outclassed by other units in one way or another. She's always kind of been irrelevant, unfortunately, as outside of using 4-piece instructors in Aggravate, she really didn't have any other place where you really wanted to use her in the Spiral Abyss. It felt like Hoyoverse kinda forgot about her. After all, she was shoved into a dumb TCG event, which I am convinced is the most skipped main event in all of Genshin. Dude, I never skip main events, yet I also skipped that event. Cut forward to now, and Hoyoverse actually gave the character some attention during the 4.8 summertime event, while making a sick Puss in Boots reference in the process. Yet, now that Hoyoverse has delivered us all a free Kirara, and she finally gained some actual plot relevance after 1 billion years, is she any better? Well, my main inspiration for this video was being told by folks in the comments that she works with Mualani. Is this a use case for her? Technically, yeah, she has a use case with Mualani, but the Shark Surfer definitely has better Dendro options at her disposal. The thing is, you aren't having your burning up time carried by her. You're using her either as a Zhongli replacement or as a subpar Dendro option. You miss out on either Nihida's big EM buff via her A1, or you miss out on Emily's great personal damage. Yes, Kirara was free, but you know who else was free and doesn't even want Constellations to improve their performance with Mualani? Kachina. 4-piece Intercity cooks the 12% damage bonus that Kirara C6 provides, and at base C0, Kirara isn't providing any damage bonus percent. I suppose you can run Cinder City on Kirara as well, but then you lose both the Instructor's EM and Kachina's ability to activate the full 40%. She's still good in Kaching and Yai Aggravate, but Chlorant wipes those two in terms of comfort and performance in Aggravate. Chloriander has self-sustain, so it's honestly just way more effective to run Nihida at that stage. Though Chloriander isn't Aggravate only, she has quite a few non-Dendro teams, so perhaps you could be a double Electro main who plays Yai or Kaching aggro on one half, and Chloriander Hyper Overload on the other. There's also Imaginarium Theater. But I'm gonna keep it real, man, that Abyss scenario is pretty rare, and I kinda doubt that somebody who owns Chlorant is gonna keep playing their Yai or Kaching outside of Imaginarium Theater. Hyperbox is legendary. I refuse to slander it. Jokes aside, dude, it's a meme team. Nobody is playing this with serious intent in mind. It's a fun way to call yourself a Kirara main though, since technically Kirara on fields. Kirara mains, shout yourselves out down below in the comments. So yeah, she technically gained Hyperbox and Mualani comps, but Hyperbox is a goofy team and Mualani vastly prefers other options. However, this doesn't mean that Kirara is garbage. You'd agree with me when I say that just because Chevreuse isn't the be-all end-all absolute best option in the game, doesn't mean that Chevreuse overload teams are bad, right? You can still absolutely clear comfortably with them. Simply just because Kirara isn't best in slot in any of her teams does not suddenly mean she is not a good, viable alternative. Yes, sometimes alternative characters are kind of cope, but at least Kirara offers multiple things other than only shielding, and in Aggravate teams where you would most commonly use her, I can realistically see somebody actually valuing the protectiveness that she brings, therefore wanting to use her for a more comfortable clear. There's a reason why characters like Raiden Shogun are still popular to use, even if she isn't doing Arlecchino levels of DPS. Ease of use. Kirara caters to this, while still being able to hold instructors, buff damage bonus percent with her C6, and offer decent enough Dendro application that improves the further you go up the Constellation totem pole. Every player values different things. To me, I care a lot about what is best in slot, so Kirara is a very average, middle-of-the-road unit to me that is saved by her ability to offer other utilities on top of shielding. But to somebody who values comfort, she may be a much better unit. I will say that shielders aren't as demanded in this day and age, thanks to the rise of healers in this Farina-based meta of ours. Things may change the further that we delve into Natlan, but we'll have to wait and see. For now, I think that she really is simply a middling unit. Kaching was recently free thanks to the standard 5-star selector, so if you chose her and were around for 4.8, then congratulations, the two pair very well together. Otherwise, every other player will most likely have replacements for her. Don't get me wrong, I'm happy to see that a much larger majority of players now have access to her thanks to that event, and it was nice to see Hoyoverse give her some attention. She'll definitely still be really good for Kaching mains, but I don't see the need for anybody else to use her. Hyperbox is very funny though. In order for Kirara to be more demanded, Dendro shielding would have to become more contested over on the whole. But then that'd simultaneously be a Baiju buff at the same time. Baiju definitely has the leg up over her, since he can provide excellent team-wide healing, which allows for Farina synergies. Kirara doesn't have such a luxury. All in all, an average unit. Since plenty of people have access to Kirara after 4.8, I do think that she has her uses. Though Mualani is not one of her preferred cases because of how outclassed she is by other options. At least in my opinion. Definitely let me know of what you thought of this video down below in the comments and share your own thoughts. Hopefully this video was able to update you about Kirara's current status in the Genshin Impact meta. This has been Juice, signing out, and which cat do you prefer?